After spending half his life toiling in the fields, my husband is about to take a concubine. He said, "Now that my status has changed, you should be grateful that I'm not divorcing you." He couldn't wait to bring back the woman he loved in his youth, forcing me to vacate the house so they could wash clothes and make beds for each other. My children pleaded with me, "Mother, you've been doing this kind of work all your life. Don't make a fuss, don't let others mock us." But they all forgot. The son they were so proud of, the grandson they relied on. I raised him with my own hands. The news of the top scholar from Hawaiian arrived in April. Though the weather had warmed, the river water was still a bit cold. After washing the clothes of the entire family, my fingers were red and swollen. The scabs from the winter frostbite had mostly healed, but the itching was unbearable. Hawthorn flowers bloomed along the riverbank, their delicate fragrance permeating the freshly washed clothes. I recalled how much he loved the hawthorn flower pancakes I made. He was frail as a child and often fell ill. I heard that locust flowers were good for the spleen and stomach, so I picked some when they were in full bloom. Added an egg, mixed in a pinch of flour, dipped a piece of oiled cloth in the pan, and fried 2 golden brown locust flower cakes. Our family was poor, so this was the best food we could afford. When he took the cake, Hawaiian opened his big, watery eyes and stood on tiptoe, begging me to take a bite. I couldn't refuse him, so I pretended to take a small bite, and he sat down contentedly on his little stool to eat. Now that he has passed the imperial examination, he must travel to various places to express his gratitude and attend banquets. I don't know when he will return, and I want to pick the flowers but fear they will spoil. On the way home, I encountered Lu, the matchmaker from the neighboring village. 20 years ago, she had arranged a marriage for my son, Wang Changping. So out of courtesy, I exchanged greetings. But today, she seemed not to notice me, covering her face and hurrying past. The courtyard was bustling with activity, since the news of Wang Changping's success in the imperial examination spread. Wealthy landowners and relatives from afar who hadn't been seen in decades had been coming daily to congratulate the family. But today's congratulations sounded different. The Wang family has double cause for celebration. Wang Yulin is nearly 60 and can still take another wife. His grandson is the top scholar, he'll have endless blessings in the future. He can afford to marry several more wives. The laundry basin slipped from my hands, and the courtyard fell into sudden silence. A few familiar neighbors looked awkward and made excuses about having too much lunch to prepare, then scattered like birds. My daughter-in-law came over with a smile, but the strength in her hand snapped me back to reality. The man sitting at the head of the table, the man I had spent half my life with, was taking a concubine. It's not taking a concubine, it's marrying a co-wife. Ching said she would never be a concubine. He emphasized each word, forbidding me to belittle the woman he had loved since his youth. I couldn't help but sneer. Not a concubine for whom? She was willing to climb into bed just to become the concubine of the young master of the Yu family in the county. Wang Yulin's face turned red with anger. Ignoring his fine robes, he stepped forward and slapped me across the face. "Shut up!" Ching had no choice. His hands, calloused from years of farm work, were strong enough to knock me to the ground if my daughter-in-law hadn't caught me. After all these years of marriage, this was the first time he had ever laid a hand on me. His hand trembled for a moment, as if filled with regret, before he slapped himself across the face. "On such a joyous day, what are you causing a scene for?" "Just making a spectacle of ourselves. Are you satisfied now?" He was speaking to me, blaming me for not joyfully agreeing to his plan to take another wife in front of others. I pushed my daughter-in-law's hands away and stepped forward to face him. "Are you determined to marry her, even if it ruins Hawaiian's future?" Our grandson had just passed the imperial examination as the top scholar. Yet the old man was acting like a merchant, wanting to take a concubine at 60. If someone reported this, Huayan would surely be implicated. He dismissed it with a wave of his hand. Don't try to scare me with that. Huayan passed the imperial examination and was immediately granted the rank of 6th grade official. Who in the village, county, or town has a higher official than him? Who could dare to interfere? I knew immediately that this was what Qingqing, who had married into a merchant family, had told him. He only knew that Huayan held a high official position, but he didn't consider his humble origins. The aristocratic families were deeply intertwined, and officials protected one another. Even an 8th-ranked county magistrate had powerful officials backing him. Huayan had risen to such a high position at such a young age. He must have offended certain people. His family couldn't help him, but they also couldn't drag him down. The children, hearing the news, hurried home. Mother, you're too timid. You refused all the gifts people brought. And now everyone is laughing at us for being so narrow-minded. I noticed something and quickly rolled up my daughter's sleeve. A shiny gold bracelet glinted brightly. It was clearly something her in-laws couldn't afford. Where did you get that? Who gave it to you? I had warned her repeatedly not to accept any valuable items from outsiders before Huayan arrived, lest they use it against us. My daughter hurriedly covered it up. It was given by Aunt Qing. She's not an outsider. I scolded her. Have you seen her? My grandson, unaware of the situation, blurted out. Aunt Qing is so generous. Yesterday she took us to Priunlu for dinner and gave my mother and aunt each a big gold bracelet. My mother's is hidden in the cabinet. My daughter-in-law hurriedly covered his mouth, saying he was just a child talking nonsense. The little grandson stuck out his tongue and ran around the courtyard. Grandma is just as stingy as Qing auntie. Yesterday, my son's family said they were going to the in-laws' house to report the good news. Wang Yulin wanted to meet with old friends, leaving me alone at home. There was no one worth cooking for, so I ate 2 dry buns and drank a few sips of cold water. At the Puyunlu, a single table costs 10 taels of silver. That's a year's worth of expenses for this entire family. My face darkened as I pointed at my daughter and daughter-in-law. Return the items. The Yu family has been in business for generations. They are cunning. Today they give you 2 gold bracelets, but tomorrow they will demand 10 from our family. The daughter-in-law rolled her eyes. Our family is so poor we can't even afford a bell to ring. What's there to scheme about? We have Huayan now. We won't lack for a good life. Let's wait until he returns to discuss everything in detail. Can't you even wait a few more days? He slammed the table angrily. Take it if you must. Qingqing will be their mother someday. Even if others find out, it won't matter. The children dared not look me in the eye, constantly urging me to be more magnanimous. Father is getting old, and mother should also let it go. Look at the officials. Which of them doesn't have concubines? Mother's jealousy is too strong. The tears in my eyes could no longer be held back and fell down my cheeks. This was the home I had worked so hard to build. The family I had protected with all my strength. A feast on the table. A pair of gold bracelets, and now they've turned against me. My daughter-in-law half pushed, half pulled me into the house. Mother, you must be tired today. Rest well. She poured another bowl of hot water and handed it to me, saying, What are you afraid of? You're still the legitimate wife of the eldest son. Qing'er, who married into the family, must serve you tea. She has money, she can spare a little for us to eat and drink. Such a shallow-minded person, I didn't want to argue with her. My daughter-in-law forcefully stuffed the tea into my hands and whispered, Could it be that, at your age, you're still thinking about that matter and can't bear the thought of your father remarrying? I was so angry I couldn't breathe, and I threw the tea out of my hand. Get out! Get out of here! My daughter-in-law stormed out, leaving the broken pieces of the tea bowl scattered on the floor. Farmers are poor, they eat and drink from a few coarse earthenware bowls. This tea bowl was left behind by my in-laws when they were alive. When my son was 5, He accidentally broke one, and I kept the remaining one in my room, never daring to use it. I tried to piece it back together, but it was impossible. Lunch was prepared by my daughter-in-law, with more oil than I would have used, and the aroma wafted into the room. My grandson asked, "Grandma, aren't you eating?" Wang Yulin shouted, "She's not hungry. She'll come out to eat when she is." Then came the sound of the daughter-in-law coaxing the little grandson to eat a few more bites. Everyone at the table was laughing and chatting, imagining the day they would move to a new home. The entire afternoon, no one came into my room to ask a single question. My son and his husband were discussing what furniture to prepare for Fan Qingqing's arrival. "It's too late to have it made now. Let's go to town and see if there are any ready-made pieces with delicate designs and nice patterns." My daughter and daughter-in-law were preparing to buy red silk for the wedding the next day. "The only thing we can't make is the new quilt. Aunt Qing is used to the good ones," the daughter-in-law said. "What's there to worry about? There are plenty of ready-made ones in town. Our family isn't so poor that we can't afford them." "Is it?" She spoke with an air of arrogance. But just a few days ago, there were still 2 patches on her clothes. I seethed with anger, cursing under my breath. Fools! Fools! A bunch of fools. Although Fan Qingqing's husband is dead, she is still a concubine of the Yu family. Marrying her is a disgrace to the Yu family. They dare not speak out because of their connection to Huayan. But the Yu family will never swallow this humiliation. Her family was only a collateral branch, the main branch was in the capital. A royal merchant with its own roots. If Huayan's official career hit a snag, her family would surely come to step on him. The principle that a tall tree attracts the wind, how could they not understand that? That evening, no one called for me. Through the door, the main hall was filled with joyful laughter. Once again, Fan Qingqing sent someone to deliver roasted chicken, roasted duck, pastries, and sweets. The young grandson was overjoyed and exclaimed, "Grandma Qing is the best. She's much better than Grandma." There was a burst of laughter outside. It seemed everyone at the table felt the same way. After everyone had left, the eldest granddaughter quietly entered the room and slipped me a large piece of bread. "Grandma, eat something. Don't starve yourself." She was the daughter of my son's first wife, and was now working as an embroiderer in the town's embroidery workshop, with only 1 day off every 2 weeks. I worried. "You've only been gone for 2 days. Why did you come back?" "I couldn't stop worrying about you, so I came back to check on you." "Did the news reach the town?" She pursed her lips. "Yes." I closed my eyes and sighed. Good news doesn't travel far, but bad news travels fast. The entire neighborhood is now waiting to see this farce unfold. "Don't worry. I'll return to the embroidery workshop tomorrow. When I send word, you can come back." "Grandma?" I stroked her head. "I'm an old woman with nothing to fear. But I'm worried they'll target you. My daughter-in-law is a snake in the grass, only interested in short-term gains. A few years ago, she tried to sell Yuer when I was up the mountain. But luckily Huayan was quick-witted and managed to stop her by appealing to the clan leader. Now that she's the younger sister of the top scholar, with her beautiful appearance and skilled embroidery, many people have their eyes on her. The embroidery shop belongs to the county magistrate's wife, and the shopkeeper is also a clever person. Yuer is safer there than at home." Around noon, Wang Yulin returned to the house, slamming the door shut with a loud bang. I didn't move, thinking about whether I had forgotten anything in the letter I wrote to Huayan. Cough. Cough. It's still cold at night. I went out for a walk, and my hands and feet are freezing. I still didn't move, and Wang Yulin grew annoyed. "I've already made concessions. What more do you want? You're in your 50s or 60s. Why are you acting like a child?" I sat up and laughed coldly. "Your concessions are just an excuse to make me wash your feet because you're cold? This tactic had been used for decades. Whenever there was a conflict, he would act this way, as if making me wash his feet was a favor he was granting me. Regardless of how you feel, I've already agreed with Lu the matchmaker. Qingqing will enter the household in 3 days. I refuse to agree. Everything will be decided when Huayan returns. Wang Yulin slammed the bedside table. He dares to interfere with his own grandfather. I pulled the blanket over me again and turned my back to him. I won't drink her tea. She won't step foot in this house. I'm divorcing you. I closed my eyes. I bore children for the Wang family, mourned my in-laws for 3 years, and have no family to return to. You can't divorce me. He flew into a rage and slammed the door shut. I lay awake all night, going over everything that had happened in the past few days. When Fan Qingqing's husband was alive, she was a favored concubine with a son and a daughter to rely on. After her husband's death, she could still live in the ancestral home of the Yu family and enjoy a life of luxury. She was a person who loved luxury and indulgence. Even if she wanted to use Huayan's influence, she didn't need to be so impatient, disregarding all proper etiquette to marry into this family. As Wang Yulin said, no matter how high a position Huayan holds, he cannot defy his own grandfather. Every time I mentioned him, it was only to delay things further and find a better solution. But what was Fan Qingqing after? This matter is truly suspicious. I cannot let her block Huayan's path. As dawn broke, I rose early and, for the first time in my life, hired Nioer's cart to go to town. I sought out Huayan's closest classmate, the son of the Feng family, a wealthy merchant in town. I hadn't been to the town in years, so I relied on asking around to find the Feng family. It took me half a day to arrive. The Feng family was a scholarly family and had little dealings with the Yu family, so I didn't know what had happened to them. He sent a carriage to take me back to the village. Old lady, don't worry. I'll ask around in the next few days and send you word as soon as I hear anything. He bowed politely, and I returned the gesture. He hurriedly stepped aside. You're too kind, old lady. Though he spoke humbly, the smile in his eyes grew even broader. Even though his grandson had become a top scholar, he couldn't shake the fact that his family had humble origins. A bunch of commoners, what right did they have to show off in front of the officials? The higher one climbs, the more cautious one must be. If you show me an inch of respect, I will show you a foot. Unfortunately, my husband and children do not understand this principle. When the county officials came to report the good news, Wang Yulin sat on his chair drinking tea, not moving an inch. As he put it, my grandson is the top scholar, they should be the ones to pay their respects to me. Seeing the county magistrate's face turn dark, I had to drag him up to greet them. Afterward, he blamed me. Ignorant woman. You can't handle a little bit of dignity. Thinking about these troublesome family members, I felt my vision go dark. My carriage and the Yu family's carriage arrived at the house one after the other. Wang Yulin, his son's family, and his daughter's family were all crammed inside. You didn't let us take anything, but you took quite a bit yourself. I opened the box in front of the villagers. Inside were some fruits, pastries, and some novel cakes from the town. Huayan and Feng Yuanwai's son are classmates. These pastries are just a token of goodwill. Wang Yulin snorted and entered the house first. His ill-fitting robe nearly tripped him. This drew laughter from the crowd gathered outside the courtyard. That evening, I repeated my words. The marriage was inappropriate, we would discuss it later. My in-laws were no longer around, and the clan sided with Wang Yulin, so no one could control him. I could only wait for news from the Feng family. But Wang Yulin didn't want to wait any longer. I had my evening meal and fell asleep before it got dark. When the sun shone into the room, I still felt dizzy and couldn't get up. The door creaked open, and my daughter-in-law entered. She forced a bowl of water into my mouth. The medicine Ching auntie gave you is effective. Sleep for a few more days. And after the wedding, she'll have to acknowledge you. My daughter said. Mother, you're just senile. Aunt Ching is so wealthy, she only wants a title. What benefits could our family possibly gain? I could hear the voices. But I couldn't move a single finger. I heard the sounds of laughter, firecrackers, and cheering outside. I was carried into the West Wing by several strong hands. Someone exclaimed, "What illness has this old woman contracted that she's lost control of herself?" My daughter-in-law scolded, "Mother, you're so old and should act with some dignity. How could you do such a thing?" I couldn't move, ashamed to the point of wanting to die. The children I gave birth to were never raised by me. They've grown into selfish, unfilial adults. I was placed on a makeshift wooden bed, listening to the laughter and clinking of cups outside. For 3 days. Only my daughter-in-law came to feed me some medicine. The hole in the roof had been there for a long time, but I had urged Wang Yulin to repair it. Yet he had not done so. Now the rain was pouring in, and I struggled to open my mouth to drink. Since his childhood in Huayan, he never slacked off. No matter the weather or hardship. Knowing our family's poverty, he filled every inch of paper with writing, often studying by moonlight to save candles. He endured hardships that others couldn't bear to become the top scholar. If I die, he will have to mourn me for 3 years. After 3 years, there will be new top scholars. No, I cannot die. With a last breath, I slowly moved my fingers and toes. When I had enough strength, I rolled off the wooden bed and crawled toward the door. I fell, bleeding profusely, and crawled into the courtyard like a demon. The laughter in the courtyard suddenly stopped. People whispered among themselves. Didn't they say that Mrs. Wang couldn't leave the house because of a cold? I think it's Wang Yulin who's tired of her and wants her to die sooner. I sobbed. My words slurred. Doctor. Find a doctor. My daughter-in-law and daughter were blaming each other. I told you to take care of her properly. Why is she still so messy? You have the nerve to say that? You're her own daughter. And you didn't even give her a sip of water. Wang Yulin, dressed in a bright red wedding robe, supported Fan Qingqing, who was also dressed in red. As they approached, he looked down on them and said, "Sister, what are you doing? Even if you're dissatisfied with your husband, you shouldn't cause a scene today and bring shame upon him." Wang Yulin scolded her. "What are you doing this for? If you're not satisfied, just stay in bed and don't move. Why are you coming out now?" I struggled to hold my breath, begging him to find a doctor. Fan Qingqing smiled and knelt down. "Sister is just being stubborn again. Why bother a doctor? The old woman by my side knows some basic medicine. Let her take a look." My daughter exclaimed in delight. "She can even diagnose illnesses. Now we won't have to spend money on doctors when our children get sick." A sharp pain pierced my back, like a needle. I regained consciousness for a moment but couldn't dodge it. "Changping, save your mother. A letter from Huayan has arrived." Changping met my open eyes and said impatiently, "I told you mother was faking it." As soon as the old woman came over, she snapped out of it. Several old women rushed over to pull me up. From the malicious glint in Fan Qingqing's eyes, I could tell she wanted me dead. Some clan elders tried to intervene, but Fan Qingqing smiled and pushed them aside. Our dynasty places great emphasis on filial piety. Huayan has always been closest to his grandfather. He wouldn't want to see his grandfather suffer such injustice. Furthermore, I've heard that Huayan has been favored by the emperor and has been sent on a mission to find the long-lost princess. It may take a year or 2 before he returns. Wang Yulin's eyes flickered, but he didn't refute it. How ridiculous. Huayan was weak as a child. And Wang Yulin always said he was a waste of money and wanted to abandon him. Now he's become the closest person to him. I struggled fiercely, and the silver needle in the old woman's hand caught my skin. Several strands of blood soaking through my clothes. My daughter saw it, and my heart leaped with joy. The next moment, I fell back into despair. She covered my bloodstains and dragged me into the side room with the old woman. She whispered in my ear, "Mother, stop this nonsense. Aunt Qing has arranged a big business deal for my husband, and we're about to strike it rich. For our sake, you must behave yourself." The door to the west room was closed, and the light faded little by little. The old women in wealthy families had many ways of torturing people. Silver needles pierced fingers, hairpins stabbed the scalp, and hands twisted in places that couldn't be seen. The pain made me moan, but my mouth was stuffed with a handkerchief. "She's coughing up blood. This won't cause trouble, will it? What's there to fear? Her husband doesn't like her. Her children don't care. And the entire family is on Qing Lady's side. The lady has instructed us not to fear even death." As my consciousness grew faint, I faintly heard the voice of Huayan. "The newly crowned top scholar is here. The newly crowned top scholar." Wang Huayan, dressed in the robes of a sixth-rank official, walked step by step into the courtyard. After parading through the streets on horseback, he received a message from his family. He reported to the emperor and brought only a few fast horses and a few attendants, rushing back day and night. Along the way, his attendants tried to persuade him several times, "Master, please rest. If you hurt yourself, the princess will be worried." He clenched the jade pendant in his hand, took a few sips of water, and gritted his teeth before mounting the horse again. His grandmother was suffering in that den of wolves, and he feared delaying his future. So he endured the pain. After years of studying poetry and classics, he did not seek promotion or wealth and honor. He only wanted to protect his grandmother and younger sister from harm. "Where is my grandmother?" Wang Yulin's joy was tinged with a hint of guilt. How did Huayan return? "It's just in time for today's auspicious occasion," Fan Qingqing interjected. "This is my first time meeting Huayan. He truly is exceptionally handsome. Just like my husband when he was young. I'm asking where my grandmother is. If no one answers, I'll ask each of you one by one." The attendants immediately drew their swords. Everyone around them was startled, their eyes unconsciously glancing toward the western wing. His gaze fixed on the dilapidated western wing. He strode forward and kicked the door open. The first thing he saw was me, unconscious and covered in blood. "Grandmother." Wang Yulin saw Huayan carrying me out and forced himself to remain calm. "Your grandmother is jealous and harsh. I only asked her to reflect in her room for a few days." Huayan ignored him. Wang Yulin, feeling humiliated, angrily exclaimed, "Stop! Didn't you hear me? Just because you're the top scholar, you dare to disregard your elders? You didn't even bow and pay respects when you returned, but instead defied me. Don't you fear I'll report you to the authorities for being unfilial?" Huayan turned his head, his face as dark as a demon rising from hell. "Go ahead and report me. If anything happens to my grandmother, not a single person in this courtyard will survive." The courtyard fell silent, so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Wang Yulin's legs trembled, and his crotch was damp with fear. He had wet himself. The young maid Huaihua told me about the scene, gesturing wildly with her hands, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "You didn't see it, madam." When the top scholar spoke, the entire courtyard was filled with kneeling people. It was truly awe-inspiring. After drinking 2 days of bitter medicine, I regained some strength, though large bruises still covered my body. That day, Huayan, enraged, brought me to the town. At the invitation of Mr. Feng, we stayed in one of his courtyards. The Feng family was very hospitable. sending rare herbs as if they were worth nothing, and even assigned several maids to attend to me alone. In all my decades of life, I had never felt as at ease as I did in those 2 days. Hawaiian knelt by the bed, burying his head in my palm like a child. Your grandson has done it. Your grandson will never let Grandma suffer again. He must have been sleepless for many days, his eyes were dark and puffy. I patted his head and smiled gently. Grandma isn't suffering. You've made Grandma so proud. After a pause, I said, you shouldn't have done that. He's your grandfather. Hawaiian, rare in his childishness, retorted, no matter who he is, he has no right to bully Grandma. If I've studied the classics and still can't protect Grandma, then I'd rather not be a top scholar. Wang Yulin dared not make a scene. But what about Fan Qingqing, who hadn't gained any advantage? I feared she might instigate Wang Yulin to go all out. In official selection, kindness and filial piety come first. At this critical moment, there must be no mistakes. After a moment of deep thought, I urged Hawaiian, go back tomorrow and give your grandfather a way out. Otherwise, he might be so confused that he really goes to the county office to report you. Hawaiian sat down by my bedside and wouldn't let me get up. Are you going back too, Grandma? They've bullied you for so many years. Foolish child. Every woman has gone through this. Your great-grandparents did me a great favor, this is just repaying them. When you become an official, find a good family for your heir to marry into. Then I can die with peace of mind. If we were to speak honestly, when I was young, my in-laws loved me, and I had 2 children. My grandson passed the imperial exams, and my granddaughter is both beautiful and talented. This should be the best possible outcome for a peasant woman who toils in the fields. I should be content. My hands clenched unconsciously. I looked up, and tears streamed down my face. I reassured Hawaiian not to worry about me. Hawaiian was even more indignant, removing the jade pendant from her neck and placing it in my hand. Grandmother, I've found your family. I was startled. What? On the day of the palace selection, the emperor saw me and hurried down to ask about my background and family circumstances. He then took me to the Empress Dowager's palace to identify the jade pendant, confirming that you are the long-lost eldest princess. Grandmother, you and your biological mother, the late Empress Dowager, look exactly alike. This jade pendant was personally hung on you by the late Empress Dowager before you were separated. My throat suddenly felt dry and bitter. I urgently pulled at Hawaiian's clothes, wanting to ask for more details, but choked on the words before they could escape my lips. Hawaiian thought I was scared, so he gently held my hand and told me what happened that day. When the emperor saw Hawaiian for the first time, he was stunned. Hawaiian inherited my appearance and looked very similar to the late Empress Dowager. He summoned all the elderly people still in the palace and checked everywhere. Finally, it was confirmed that I was the grand princess who had been lost outside the palace years ago. Back then, during the palace intrigues, to protect the young emperor, the palace maids dressed me in a prince's attire to confuse everyone. As a result, I was kidnapped by bandits and taken out of the palace. No matter how hard they searched, there was no trace of me. The palace maid was injured and didn't go far before collapsing at grandfather's doorstep. The rest didn't need to be said. My in-laws saw me dressed in fine silk robes and adorned with precious jade ornaments. So they kept me. Grandmother, you should return to your rightful position as the eldest princess. Memories flooded back like a tidal wave, leaving my thoughts in disarray. After a moment, I asked, who is in power now? The late emperor was your brother, so the emperor is your nephew. I shook my head. You've studied for years, you should know the saying. The imperial family is the most heartless. And another, loyalty to the ruler comes before loyalty to one's father. Even within the imperial family, fathers and sons can turn against each other with swords. How much weight does this ant, whom I've never even met, hold in the emperor's heart? I was raised in the countryside, with a bunch of good-for-nothings trailing behind me. Even if I returned, I'd only bring shame to the imperial family. Besides, I don't believe the emperor would acknowledge me just because of the late Empress Dowager's vague request. Huaiyan, who was always wise, spoke solemnly. The emperor is already in his twilight years, and the princes below are fighting fiercely. The new officials who have entered the court have probably already secretly aligned themselves with one of the princes. Only I, from a humble background, can be a loyal minister. That's right. The emperor wants loyal ministers who will fight for him, and they must not be swayed by other princes. Standing firmly on his side. Has the emperor acknowledged my identity in front of the officials? Huaiyan said. No. Only a few attendants by his side know. Grandmother, what does the emperor mean by this? I looked out the window, where a few birds flew by. Magpies perching on branches are a good omen. The emperor is observing whether our grandmother and grandson are worthy of a princess's title. Once our names are listed, there is no turning back. I held Huaiyan's hand. Good child. Take your grandmother home. Grandmother? I smiled. Do not worry. Your grandmother has a plan. 3 days later, at noon, when the streets were crowded with idle people, Huaiyan, carrying a bundle of thorns on his back, pushed me in a wheelbarrow to apologize to his grandfather. We walked all the way from the town to the village entrance, with a growing crowd following behind us. Every time someone asked, Hua cried and said, our Zhuangyuan saved our grandmother in a hurry and offended our grandfather. Today we've come to apologize. Although it was old Master Wang who wanted to marry a concubine and tried to make the old lady sick. As his grandson, the Zhuangyuan couldn't disobey. The Zhuangyuan has realized his mistake. Please help us plead for mercy and don't let the old master accuse the Zhuangyuan of being unfilial. The young girl's voice was clear and distinct, firmly placing the accusation of plotting to kill his wife on Wang Yulin's head. By the time they entered the courtyard, it was already crowded with villagers. 3 layers deep. Wang Yulin, who was not good with words, turned red with anger and pointed at Huaihua. You're lying. Huaiyan slowly knelt down, speaking earnestly. Your grandson is unfilial for failing to bring joy to your old age. I am willing to resign my official position and stay home to honor you. I beg you to spare my grandmother's life. These words caused even Fan Qingqing's expression to change. She had disregarded her own dignity to marry into the family, all for the sake of Huaiyan's prestige. Yulin, speak up. Don't let Huaiyan make such a foolish decision and resign from his post. Wang Yulin bypassed Huaiyan and accused me. Was it you? You poisonous woman. Who instigated this? Using your official position to threaten your own father? Before coming here, I had Huaihua apply some powder to my cheeks, making me look even paler. Panting heavily, I said, I spent so much effort to send Huaiyan to school. How could I let him resign over a moment's anger? It's just. He won't be able to become an official now. Before I could finish, tears were already streaming down my face. The elderly clan member of the Wang family urgently asked, what's going on? How could he not become an official in this remote and impoverished area? Even a lowly 9th-rank official is enough for the clan to walk around with their heads held high, let alone a young 6th-rank official, who has a high chance of entering the imperial court, bringing honor to the entire clan for generations to come. Huaiyan bit his lip, then, driven to desperation, hung his head in defeat and said, the great clans despise merchants and their concubines, deeming them a disgrace to the family. And with my grandfather's age, if the censor finds out, who knows how many reports he'll file against me. Rather than wait for the emperor to demote me, I'd rather resign myself and at least retain some dignity. The elder of the Wang clan immediately said, "Wang Yulin, hurry up and drive this old woman away." When he wanted to marry a concubine earlier, no one from the clan spoke up for him. Now that it involves his future and interests, everyone is eager to drive Fan Qingqing away. Facing the accusations from the crowd, Wang Yulin hesitated. Fan Qingqing sensed something was wrong and raised her face, kneeling before Wang Yulin. "Decades ago, we were torn apart by others. Never did I think that after enduring so much hardship to be together, we would still be rejected by everyone. Yulin, I don't want to put you in a difficult position. Let me go. If I can't be with you in life, then let me marry again after death." She had always been beautiful. Having lived a life of luxury as a concubine for decades, she still looked as fair as she did in her youth, though a few fine lines added a touch of elegance. She was 2 years older than me, yet she looked at least 10 years younger. The scales in my heart began to tip. And when Fan Qingqing stood up to take her own life, Wang Yulin finally made his decision. "I will divorce her. I will divorce this poisonous woman. Qingqing will be my only wife from now on, and no one will dare to report us." I exhaled deeply. It was exactly as I had anticipated and desired. No. Grandma has worked so hard for the family all these years. Even if she hasn't achieved anything, she's at least put in the effort. "How can you divorce her?" Wang Yulin replied. "I was forced to marry her in the first place. Now that we're this age, I can't bear it anymore." Huayan pleaded again. "Father and auntie, please persuade grandfather. Grandma may not have money or power, but she gave birth to all of you." The son and daughter had not spoken a word from the beginning. Now that they were called out, they avoided eye contact and stammered. "As children, how can we interfere in our elders' affairs?" One sentence made it clear: they agreed with Wang Yulin's decision to divorce me. What a pair of good children I have. So foolish and so cruel. The son pleaded, "Even if mother isn't in this household, we'll still honor you. Don't push father anymore." The daughter also said, "Qing'er is a good person. Mother, granting her and father's wishes is also an act of merit." I had already heard that my son-in-law was doing business with Fan Qingqing's son and had made a fortune. I was helped to stand by Huayan and looked around the courtyard. I have spent over 50 years in the Wang family, honoring my in-laws and raising my children. Back then, none of you agreed to let Huayan go to school. It was I who worked day and night weaving cloth to save enough for his tuition. Now that I am old, you want to kick me out. Is there such a thing in this world? They too had some pride. Facing the whispers of the crowd, they gritted their teeth and said, "Then what do you want? How much silver do you want? Just say it." Fan Qingqing also put on an act: "If my sister needs silver, just ask me. Don't make things difficult for your husband." I shook my head. I don't want ill-gotten gains. Even the family fortune I've accumulated over the years. I don't want. I only want Wang Yulin to agree to 3 conditions. Seeing me soften, Wang Yulin hurriedly said, "Speak quickly. First, I don't want a divorce decree. I want to divorce you openly and honestly. The divorce decree must be written by the clan elders, stating that it was you, Wang Yulin, who changed your mind and abandoned me. Second, at my age, I am alone. I need to take Yuer with me, and we must draw up a written agreement. Third, I looked at the children I had given my life to and said each word clearly. I want my son Wang Changping and my daughter Wang Xuemei to write a document severing all ties with me. The debt of raising them is now settled, and we will have no further connection." Everyone present was stunned. Wang Yulin snapped out of it and flew into a rage. "You're mad. You've lost your mind." No matter how he cursed or how my children scolded me, I remained unmoved. I knew he would eventually agree. Fan Qingqing would persuade him. My children would also agree. They valued the benefits Fan Qingqing brought more than anything else. As for Yuer, she was dispensable. It didn't take long for the 3 documents to be placed before me. I pressed my fingerprints on each one and carefully tucked them away in my bosom. Yuer cried as she threw herself into my arms. Grandma, I finally don't have to be afraid anymore. I ruffled her hair. Yes. Back then I went to great lengths to send her to the embroidery workshop. All because I feared she might be sold by those beasts at any moment. Now that she's with me, she no longer has to live in fear. Wang Yulin casually wiped the red ink from his hands on his outer robe and pointed to the west wing, saying, I'm not a heartless man. You have no family to go to, so you can stay in the west wing from now on. Just do the same as before, cook and clean the house. Her daughter supported Fan Qingqing forward. That's right. Mother. Those servants have returned to the Yu mansion. You can help Qinger and father with the laundry and folding the bedding. You're used to it anyway. Fan Qingqing couldn't suppress the smile on her lips. Sister. Don't worry. My clothes are all clean. Washing 2 sets a day is enough. She then tried to hand me a wooden basin. I didn't take it, letting it fall to the ground. Who said I have no family to go to? Wang Yulin sneered. You came here when you were 8 years old. Your entire family is dead. No sooner had he finished speaking than a large sword was placed against his neck. How dare you insult the emperor? By law, you should be executed. Several swords were drawn, and in the blink of an eye, over a dozen guards gathered in the courtyard. Huaiyan turned to me and bowed respectfully. I am here by imperial decree to escort the Grand Princess back to the palace. The guards knelt in unison, their voices shaking the heavens. Welcome the Grand Princess. Wang Yulin took a step back. Nonsense. She can't be a princess. Huaiyan replied. Why not? Decades ago, the princess was kidnapped from the palace by rebels. The Wang family, in their greed for wealth and power, hid her in the village. It wasn't until the day of the palace selection that the emperor recognized her at first glance. He looked at Huaiyan and my similar features and muttered. No wonder. No wonder my parents always said you were blessed with good fortune. You're a noble woman. Because of this, Wang Yulin always felt resentful and often mocked me, saying that an old peasant woman like me had no right to such good fortune. Fan Qingqing instinctively tried to run away but was held down by several guards. Her children and grandchildren knelt down repeatedly, begging to disassociate themselves from her. Fan Qingqing was already at the end of her strength. Yet she remained defiant. Even if you're a princess, you can't use your status to oppress the common people. I haven't done anything wrong. I sneered and waved my hand, signaling several servants to step forward. Fan Qingqing turned pale at the sight of them, clinging to Wang Yulin's legs and screaming, Yulin, you must save me. I did all this for you. Enraged, I slapped her across the face. You lent money at exorbitant rates for your own gain, costing countless innocent lives. You have the nerve to cry innocence? That alone is enough to sentence you to slow execution. She seemed to lose her mind. You're targeting me. I'm not the only one doing this business. Your son and daughter are involved too. If you kill me, you'll have to kill them all as well. My children tried to approach me, repeatedly shouting that they were wrong. I scoffed. The divorce papers have been signed. Your mother is now Fan Qingqing. They grabbed Huaiyan, clinging to him like a lifeline. Son, you're a high-ranking official now. You won't let your father be arrested, will you? Huaiyan, you can't let your grandmother act so recklessly. What's so wrong with lending money? All the officials in town do it. The officials who had come to arrest him were so scared their faces turned pale. They hurriedly ordered the guards to arrest him. Wang Yulin saw that Huaiyan wasn't moving and angrily said, If you dare not intervene, I'll go to the capital and accuse you of being unfilial. Last time, This threat forced Huayan to bow his head and beg for forgiveness. He was trying the same trick again. Huayan bowed to the Wang clan elders but spoke calmly. It's not that I won't help. Your grandfather and father committed a grave crime. Their descendants are barred from taking the imperial exams. Even if I become an official, I'll be dismissed immediately. Within a single day, he had nearly failed to become an official twice. Some clan elders could no longer bear it and fainted, their eyes rolling back in their heads. An elderly man cursed Wang Yulin, saying that the green smoke rising from his ancestors' graves had been extinguished by him. What a tragic family, to produce such a beast. I found their curses amusing and deeply agreed with them. Some clan elders pleaded with me, begging me to spare the Wang family out of consideration for our long-standing relationship. I feigned deep thought, appearing reluctant. The emperor's law applies equally to all, even if I were a princess. I couldn't save them. However, I do have a plan that could ensure the prosperity of the Wang clan. Are you willing to hear it? They eagerly agreed. Wang Yulin's crimes have brought misfortune upon his descendants. If Huayan weren't his grandson, that would be ideal. The clan elders exchanged glances. From their reluctant expressions, I could tell they suspected I intended to take Huayan away. Sacrificing Wang Yulin wasn't a big deal. But if we gave up Huayan, the clan might never rise again. Wang Yulin shouted hoarsely. If you don't want to be an official, then don't be one. But if you want Huayan to change his name and abandon our Wang clan, that's impossible. Even if we die. The clan elders exchanged glances and silently agreed with Wang Yulin's words. If they couldn't get the upper hand, they would drag others into the mud. After living with them for all these years, I understood them thoroughly. I cleared my throat and began my next move. Even though I am past middle age, I must return to my ancestral clan. How could I let Huayan abandon its clan ties? If we are to adopt someone, it must be fair to all members of the Wang clan. Do you all remember that Wang Yulin has a younger cousin who died young? Adopting him into the clan would allow us to treat all clan members equally and avoid being implicated by Wang Yulin. The people present were stunned for a moment before digging into their memories to recall this person. Are you talking about Heng Yuan? I nodded. Heng Yuan was the same age as us and was the most well-liked person in the village. Unfortunately, he had a bad fate, became an orphan, and died unexpectedly after finally growing up. I disagree. Wang Yulin was even more furious than before. But the clan elder, who had experienced 2 major ups and downs in his life, did not want any more trouble. He skillfully unfolded the paper and ink and wrote the adoption document. After all, they were all clan members. What difference did it make whose name was on the document? Several strong men from the Wang clan pressed Wang Yulin's hand down to sign the document. He was truly stubborn. His fingers were broken, yet he still tried to tear up the adoption document. As he was dragged away, he shouted that I had an affair with Heng Yuan. Otherwise, why would I choose to adopt him? However, it was all too late. The children knelt down and begged. Mother, we were wrong. We are the flesh of your flesh. This blood bond cannot be severed. My teenage niece, who understood everything, looked at me with sparkling eyes and asked pitifully, Grandmother, since you've become a princess, does that mean I'll be a princess too? I sighed and stroked her head. No, that's not possible. Your mother signed the adoption papers, so only Yuer is my descendant. Yuer will be the princess. This made my niece cry hysterically, blaming her parents for ruining her future. The adoption matter was settled, and Huayan remained a member of the Wang family. The clan elders warmly invited us to visit their homes once we returned to the village. Then they praised each other and left the courtyard. The guards escorted Wang Yulin and Fan Qingqing into the house. Fan Qingqing was terrified and began to struggle. You can't kill me. The Yu family is a royal merchant family. The court must give us some face. I whispered. Are you talking about that Yu family that colluded with the enemy and betrayed the country? Fan Qingqing was too eager to marry into the family. She even went so far as to kill me before Huayan returned. She was reckless and radical. And yet, not a single member of the Yu family dared to stop her. I entrusted Feng Yuanwei to investigate thoroughly. What we discovered was that the Yu family had been using their imperial merchant status to secretly sell refined salt and grain seeds to barbarian tribes, with all the proceeds being handed over to the third prince. The third prince's actions were so brazen that the emperor could no longer tolerate it. He issued a secret edict ordering an investigation into the source of the silver and gold in Huayan. It was thanks to Fan Qingqing that we were able to uncover this so smoothly. Who could have imagined that such a minor branch of the family would be involved in such a major scheme behind the scenes? Fan Qingqing had long known about the Yu family's treasonous activities and feared that any exposure might implicate her. So she desperately sought a powerful ally. The third prince had long sought to ally with Huayan. And the Yu family, of course, had to prioritize their master's interests and dared not easily cause trouble for Huayan. Wang Yulin knelt like a wooden statue, his voice hoarse and strained, gazing at the collapsing Fan Qingqing. So the love you spoke of, your desire to marry me, was all just for self-preservation? Fan Qingqing said nothing, lying on the ground like a dead dog. Wang Yulin let out a long, piercing cry, his eyes bloodshot, begging me. I was wrong. Xiao, don't leave. I was deceived by her. Stay with us and let's live a good life together. Just like before. You can cook and weave at home while I work the fields. Changping and the others are waiting for us to come back. I sneered and slapped him across the face. You're the most filial one, aren't you? Your parents spent their entire lives hoping I'd become a nobleman. And now you want me to go back to weaving and farming? They'd probably crawl out of their graves if they heard that. You. How do you know? When did I find out? It was the year Hun Yuan died. Ever since I came to this village, my in-laws wouldn't let me leave. They said it was dangerous outside. And there were people waiting to kill me. I believed them and refused to step outside. My in-laws were kind to me. Even if there was only one egg, they'd make sure Wang Yulin gave it to me. But when they cautiously asked about my background, I hesitated and said I had forgotten. They didn't say anything, but they carefully put away all my clothes. After a few months, I gradually noticed that my in-laws were watching me. To keep a closer eye on me, they even went so far as to give all their eggs to the villagers to watch over me. The village was surrounded by mountains on 3 sides, with only one exit. Every time I approached the village entrance, someone would call me back. I grew increasingly panicked, but dared not show it. That was when Hun Yuan appeared. He originally lived in town, but his family's house was burned down by their neighbors, leaving him alone. After moving back to the old house in the village, he started farming for a living. My in-laws mocked his family, saying they had become too arrogant when they returned home 2 years ago. They had a carriage and servants, they were asking for trouble. But when his family sent pastries, it was my in-laws who grabbed the most. At 16, Wang Hunyuan was tall and sturdy, with a smile that hinted at a touch of cunning. Like a little son, he would climb the wall and ask me if I wanted some candied hawthorn. I didn't say anything, so he kept talking to himself until I couldn't help but laugh. His in-laws, seeing him appear more often, would shout and curse at him through the courtyard gate. But he didn't seem to mind. I had never seen anyone live so freely and happily. Our relationship grew closer day by day through his constant jokes. But one day, his in-laws brought news that he had been attacked by bandits. Not even a proper body was left behind. His in-laws shook their heads, sighing with pity. 3 months later, they forced me to marry Wang Yulin. The night before the wedding, I overheard Wang Yulin complaining to his parents. Why did you have to kill Hun Yuan? If he wanted to be with Shoer, just let him marry her. I still want to be with Ching Ching. A clear slap echoed from inside. You good for nothing. We've been raising her all these years for what? My head buzzed, and I couldn't hear the rest of the words. Heng Yuan died because of me. He died because of me. He hadn't avenged his family or reclaimed his family's property before he died. Since then, I dared not show even the slightest hint of self-awareness. I clearly realized that they wouldn't let me leave until they had completely bound me. Steep mountains can't stop a bird from flying, but they can trap a weak woman. I resigned myself to staying in the mountain village where I couldn't fly away, waiting for an opportunity to soar. Wang Yulin was right. I had my own reasons for letting Huayan be adopted. But this was what he owed Heng Yuan. Wang Yulin was still struggling, trying to use our children to soften my heart. He said this with a guilty conscience. My in-laws kept a close watch on me, both openly and secretly. Even after I gave birth to the children, they stubbornly raised my 2 children, always on guard to prevent them from getting close to me. They taught my children to throw stones at me, then stepped forward to play the good guy when I was at my most heartbroken. They wanted their children to keep their distance from me. By tying the children to them, they tied me to them as well. Once I grew old, they could return to their ancestral home, and their entire family would rise to prominence. The mental and physical torment of those years nearly drove me to the brink of collapse. It wasn't until I shed my refined, elegant demeanor, spent my days tending the fields, and my nights washing clothes and mending clothes, and learned to act like the village shrews who would argue and fight with neighbors over a few scallions, that my in-laws gradually relaxed their guard. They no longer prevented me from interacting with the children. But it was too late. Under their grandparents' indulgence, the children became arrogant and selfish, always looking for an advantage. They looked down on me, their own mother. This flawed nature persisted even after their grandparents passed away, and I was unable to correct them. Wang Yulin crawled forward and grabbed my clothes. My parents raised you and gave you a stable life. You owe us. Even if you become a princess, you must take us with you. I pulled my clothes back forcefully, and he fell to the ground. Huayan entered the room just then and didn't even glance at him. Grandmother, the people outside are still waiting. Watching the 2 noblemen leave his home was more painful than death. Life as a princess was indeed wonderful. There were over 20 maidservants attending to me. Every day, I was served delicacies and tonics. Huaihua even found beauty recipes for me. By the time we arrived in the capital, my skin had become soft and delicate. The emperor truly knew how to cry. In front of all the officials, he held me and poured out his years of longing. In truth, this was the first time we had ever met. He granted me a princess's mansion, bestowed numerous titles and rewards, and even conferred the title of Zhaoyang County Princess upon Yuer. I reciprocated by praising the emperor's kindness and wisdom everywhere, singing his praises. When it was time for me to make an appearance, I used my seniority to intimidate others and comply with the emperor's wishes. When several princes were vying for the throne and tried to win my favor, I pretended to be deaf and blind. I pointed at the 2nd prince and called him the 5th prince, and pointed at the 5th prince and called him the 6th princess, always making them so angry they fell over. Privately, they all called me the blind old woman. I just smiled and didn't take it to heart. After pretending to be foolish for so many years, I've become an expert at it. Besides, enduring a few insults to live such a good life is more than worth it. Everyone in the capital thinks I'm lucky. Upon my return, I became the center of attention as the eldest princess, with a grandson who is the top scholar. Stunningly handsome. But when I reflect on my life, I've lost so much. During the palace coup, I lost my mother and my older brother. Between my brother and me, my mother didn't hesitate to put her clothes on me. She didn't even look back as she took my brother and fled for our lives. Stranded in a mountain village, I lost Hing Yuan. He was so full of vitality and so intelligent. He always told me, "Don't be afraid, I'll take you out of here someday." He said that as long as we were alive, there was hope. Even Jiang Taigong didn't take office until he was 80. Who knows what the outcome would have been if he hadn't persevered to the end? But just the day before I was going to reveal my deepest secret to him, he left. He was killed by his in-laws. It was because he had grown close to me, and they feared he would take all the benefits for himself in the future. As for children, I never had any. When I first became pregnant, the thought of having Wang Yilin's child filled me with disgust. But when they were born, they were just tiny bundles, their dark eyes unable to discern the good and evil of the world. I was lost. I wanted to love them, teach them to be kind and wise, to be self-reliant and strong. But they grew up to be another Wang Yilin. Later, I was grateful for their birth, as it made the entire village lower their guard toward me. That year, I managed to escape to the town. I wanted to find the county magistrate. As I approached the county office, my heart pounded so hard it felt like it would burst from my throat. After all these years, I was finally going to break free. I tidied my hair and took out the jade pendant, claiming I was a princess. The soldiers at the gate paused for a moment, then burst into laughter, saying I must have gone mad from farming. A peasant woman couldn't possibly be a princess. If you're a princess, I'm the emperor. Ha ha ha. I didn't blame them. They'd never even been to the capital city in their lives. How could they recognize a princess? I begged them to deliver the token to the capital. They laughed again, this time with a hint of anger. You're pale and emaciated, covered in patches, and your fingers are thick. You're clearly a woman who's worked the fields all her life. If you're really a princess who's been lost, how could a woman survive like this? To preserve the royal family's honor, you should take your own life. Living like this is a disgrace. If I were part of the royal family, I'd kill you first. Their words struck me like a thunderclap, bringing me back to reality. I had been wandering for years. Who knew what I had endured? The royal family values reputation above all else. Even among siblings, there is little affection. Even my younger brother knew that my existence was merely to pave his way to power. How could I possibly guarantee that my royal brother and my mother, who valued rules above all else, wouldn't dispose of me for the sake of their reputation? I returned home in a daze and lay in bed for 3 days. Finally, Wang Yulin couldn't take it anymore and dragged me out of bed despite my in-laws' objections. What kind of woman doesn't cook or do laundry? She's so spoiled. I think she deserves a beating. As I dodged, I heard Wang Yulin shout. She doesn't even have a family to stand up for her. Who would dare to speak for her? My in-laws stood in front of me, giving him meaningful glances. I heard my mother-in-law whisper to him, promising to find my family immediately so that we wouldn't have to suffer anymore. Those words jolted me awake. No, I couldn't let them go. I didn't even know if the royal family would accept me, let alone my poor in-laws. If my mother recognized me, she would have to punish me for deceiving the emperor to save face. Then I would never be able to return. The timing was perfect. When I returned from the fields, a neighbor told me that rocks had been rolling down the northern slope and asked me to inform my in-laws. I relayed the message, but added a detail. There were soldiers on the official road, apparently looking for someone who had gone missing over 10 years ago. They couldn't hide their excitement, pulled out the clothes I had worn back then, and rushed out of the house. The official road was to the north. To save time, they took the risk of climbing over the mountain ridge. Unfortunately, a landslide swept them down just as they reached the top. During that time, I thought a lot. If I were to return, I would have to do so in style. In this world, a woman can only rise through the ranks by relying on her father, brothers, husband, or children. As for my father, brothers, and husband, there's no need to mention them. I've placed all my hopes on my children. I taught my son to write by hand, but he found it too difficult and tedious, crying and refusing to learn. My daughter also hated seeing paper and brushes. I sent her to learn embroidery, but after just a few days, she complained of sore hands and ran back home. Though I despise my current daughter-in-law for marrying without a matchmaker, my grandson might be like Hwaiyan and have a talent for learning. I want him to study as well, but my daughter-in-law fears he will grow too close to me and spoils him rotten. Only Hwaiyan and Yue resemble me. I keep them by my side every day, teaching them personally. This is my only hope. Fortunately, they are very promising. When Hwaiyan said they were princesses, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't imagine that they would so casually conclude I was the eldest princess without even seeing me or hearing my explanation. This path I've walked for nearly 40 years. I've thought it through carefully, planning to wait until Hwaiyan is granted an official title, take me to the capital, and find the right opportunity, a banquet, report to the authorities, or have Hwaiyan submitted on my behalf. But before I could decide, before I even reached the capital, I had become a princess. Until I met the emperor. He really did resemble my elder brother. The same cold-hearted, ruthless appearance. Especially his gaze, the way he looked at Hwaiyan was exactly like the way my elder brother had looked at me when he stripped off his clothes for me. Later, Hwaiyan indeed became the emperor's sharpest, most reliable tool, frequently entering and exiting the harem. I keenly observed that the emperor favored Lady Lan the most. Though not of high rank, her life was smooth and comfortable. Her ninth prince, only 16 years old, had not yet been involved in the succession struggle and was regarded as the emperor's model filial son. But not competing is also a form of competition. As it turned out, I had not misjudged the situation. In the end, the ninth prince ascended the throne. By then, Hwaiyan had risen to the position of chancellor, a true confidant of the emperor. I was promoted once more, becoming the grand princess, the emperor's aunt. With such a high rank, no one dared to cross me. I had already abused my power, ordering Wang Yulin and his men to be locked away in that old courtyard. Fan Qingqing's family had long been exiled. I did not bother them further. She had also helped me by urging Wang Yulin to sign the divorce papers and abandon his ungrateful children. Otherwise, I would have been unable to rid myself of this group of so-called relatives. They are now trapped in the old courtyard, with only a small plot of land to survive on. The courtyard is constantly guarded, and they cannot escape. Such a life wouldn't last long before they started blaming each other, fighting fiercely, and losing all the harmony they once had when they were united against me. I had made it clear that if anyone died, they would all have to die with them. They dared not take their lives. Death is liberation. I must let them watch me in glory. Watch me sit on a high platform. Watch me become the noble person my in-laws have always dreamed of, while they suffer and live on for a long, painful life. A few familiar neighbors looked awkward and made excuses about having prepared lunch at home, then scattered like birds. No one is allowed to leave the village, just as I experienced back then. They probably won't even get a glimpse of Hwaiyan's glory in their next lifetime. Yue's status has risen sharply, and her marriage is no longer in my hands. After the emperor ascended the throne, he bestowed her the title of concubine. Before she entered the palace, I gave her only one word: endure. Whoever can stay calm and endure until the end will win. I'm not particularly clever, but after spending years with noble women, I've come to realize this even more. But I can keep my composure, and after all these years, I've finally seen the light at the end of the tunnel. Yue is wise, I believe she can do the same. Hwaiyan married the daughter of the chancellor, a dignified and graceful young woman. He had seen his stepmother's cruelty from a young age and swore never to take a concubine. The young couple had 2 children in 3 years. And their great-grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren swarm around my legs, making me so happy that wrinkles appear on my face from smiling. Hua Hua has grown up and married the manager of the courtyard, still serving by my side. Yuer has never forgotten my instructions. Find your place in life. Never be arrogant because of favor. And sometimes even pretend to be foolish or ignorant to outsmart others. Huayan should advance when the time is right and retreat when necessary. Never clinging to power. Thus, the next emperor will be Yuer's eldest son. I worked too hard in my youth and ruined my health. By the time I was 80, my body had given out. I was so confused by illness that when Huayan's grandson crawled to my bedside, I didn't recognize him. I held his hand and said, "It's Han Yuan. You've finally come to play with me. I've been waiting for you for so long. Did you bring the sugar-coated hawthorn for me this time?" Huayan's grandson replied instinctively, "I did." I smiled and said, "That's wonderful. Then I'll go with you."